What's going on there, YouTube? And welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, guys, so we are basically going to continue our coverage over DC Rebirth Cyborg. Now, of course, we actually do pick up with Volume 3. Now, with that being said, Volume 3 is technically the last volume for Cyborg in the Rebirth era, meaning that after this storyline, DC Rebirth actually ended. And with that, you had one more storyline that actually came after the Rebirth era for Cyborg, but apparently nobody read it at all. Like, you had a few people, but not a lot. Because I honestly did not see a lot of people talk about that storyline after this one. But of course, we are going to focus on this one right here. Now, this storyline right here is called Singularity Aftermath. Now, this is technically a 7-part storyline to wrap up everything we have seen since the very beginning of our coverage of DC Rebirth Cyborg, with of course the bad guy Anomaly, Variant, the female cyborg, Celia Stone, the origin of Cyborg, all of that's being wrapped up in this storyline right here. And of course, it's one heck of a story, but we are going to break it up in 2 videos because it is a very long storyline. And honestly, I don't record a almost hour-and-a-half video to basically talk about this storyline because it is honestly pretty long, pretty crazy, but honestly really good. And I do hope you guys enjoy this book a lot. Now, to get into today's storyline, it actually does pick up where our last storyline left off at, where basically you had Cyborg, Variant, and Xenophone all get teleported into some kind of wormhole. Now, this wormhole was basically made by the character Anomaly. Now, remember, Anomaly is a new character that DC gave us, and basically Anomaly is an evil clone of Celia Stone being the father of Cyborg, but Anomaly is an evil clone of Celia's when Celia was trying to find a cure for cancer to save his wife. And so he made a bunch of like cyborg clones to kind of test out his cancer cure. And of course, Anomaly was one of those clones who was supposed to be killed off, but came back to get revenge. Now, at the end of our last video, we come to find out that basically Anomaly had been hearing voices inside his head, and those voices basically told him to build a machine, which of course led to a wormhole opening up and sucking everybody in. And so with that, you have Cyborg trying to figure out where in the world he's basically going. And right now, the Cyborg, he kind of thinks that he's actually dead. Yes, you heard that right. He thinks that him and his crew have died. But in reality, we all know he ain't dead yet. That basically this is going to lead to something more interesting down the road for this storyline. But of course, he does run into some kind of robot. Now, this robot does attack him, and of course, they do get a small battle, but you have Cyborg being able to actually defend himself against this robot, but when he does, it leads into the next crazy thing about this book. Now, after Cyborg had basically lost that fight against that robot, when he comes back to, he's actually confronted by Blue. Now, remember, Blue is an old blind man who can play the saxophone, and Cyborg met Blue back in our earlier storylines through his dear friend Sarah. Now, again, Blue is a blind man who plays a saxophone. So Cyborg is trying to figure out how in the world, after losing a battle against an evil robot, but then waking back up and being confronted by Blue, why in the world Blue is here? And so this is Cyborg once again thinking that he had died. But then you have Blue kind of talking to Cyborg in a way to tell Cyborg that Cyborg honestly doesn't know what in the world is going on. That right now, he is oblivious to what's around him and his surrounding. But basically, it's Blue telling Cyborg, you need to realize what's going on with the reality around you. But that is the moment you actually do have Blue begin to play some music. Now with this music, it begins to mess with the mind of Cyborg, and of course, he begins to pass back out. But when he comes back to, he is confronted once again by Xenophone. Now remember, Xenophone is basically a character Cyborg met in our last video who has the ability to kind of work with a lot of tech. Like, he is a very tech person. No powers, just great with technology. Now, of course, when Cyborg wakes up and sees Xenophone, he's happy about it. But he also sees Anomaly. And of course, like I said earlier, Anomaly is the new bad guy of this entire series. And right now, it is Anomaly's fault that everybody was sucked into the wormhole. Now, the ending of our last video, we were left to believe only Cyborg, Variant, and Xenophone were all teleported inside the wormhole, not Anomaly. But to come find out, Anomaly was also teleported inside the wormhole, and so wherever our characters had landed at, so did Anomaly. Now, of course, they do find Variant, and of course, they do wake her up. And remember, Variant is the female version of Cyborg. The American government found a second mother box and basically used that to create another Cyborg, which is Variant. Now, with that being said, of course, you did have Cyborg remind us that the only reason why they're here right now in this, well, wherever, is because Anomaly said he has been hearing voices inside his head who walk him through every single step to basically create some kind of machine that led to that wormhole being made. But that is the moment you have Variant said, no, he didn't hear some random voice in his head. Like, actually, that voice in his head, she kind of knows about it. And what Variant says is that when her and Anomaly were connected for a brief moment, so was their minds. And with their minds being connected, Variant could also hear that voice inside her head, which means that she's telling Cyborg that voice inside his head is real. And that's all she kind of knows. Now, of course, you do have Variant realize that the surrounding area they're in right now looks heavily damaged. But the damage looks old, meaning that is her asking Cyborg, how long have we been out? Because if they have been out for a long period of time, or the possibility that wormhole could have had thrown them into the future, how far in the future they have gone. Now, when Cyborg kind of used his ability to scan the earth and everything, well, that is the moment he realized that where some of the stars used to be at, they're no longer there. And so, of course, Cyborg was able to determine that basically they're not on their Earth, that they're in another universe. Now, we're not told what universe this is, but of course, it's Cyborg saying we're in an entire completely different universe, a different Earth. On top of that, my systems still have viruses that Anomaly gave me. So again, Cyborg is still not up to 100%. Now, you do have Cyborg and his crew do see a bunch of people where, of course, this is Cyborg thinking that if he can just walk over there and actually talk to those people to learn where in the world they're at the moment, he can learn more about this Earth. But of course, when they do walk over, they're not confronted by regular people. They're confronted by machines. And of course, these machines begin to actually attack them. Now, while they're being attacked by these machines, that is the moment you have Beast Boy appear. Now, remember, this is an alternate Earth, meaning that this is not the Beast Boy you all know and love. Now, also with that being said, thanks to the new 52 and also DC Rebirth, Cyborg has never met Beast Boy. Because Beast Boy, even though he was on the Teen Titans, Cyborg never was. And the Teen Titans in the new 52 did not really work close to the Justice League. They were kind of like a bunch of teenage heroes who were just out there. And nobody really watched over them to make sure they did not get into big trouble. But of course, this is Beast Boy saying, listen, you guys have to come with me because right now you are fighting against mecha humans. basically half machines, half humans. It's a long story, but the entire world is kind of like that. So if you want to live, you must come with me. And of course, you do have everyone follow Beast Boy. And of course, you have Beast Boy take the entire crew into some kind of jet where, of course, they do fly off to kind of save their lives from this attack of mecha humans. Now, you actually do have Beast Boy take Cyborg and his crew over to what really is a helicarrier. But of course, it's not called an helicarrier, it's called a Star Labs. Now, of course, when they arrive on this helicarrier, they are confronted by Cyborg's mother. Now, this is huge because remember, in the main DC universe, his mother died from cancer. But in this universe, she's still alive. Now, this is the moment you have her kind of knock everybody out. And then when Cyborg and his crew wake back up, you have his mom explain they had to make sure that him, Variant, and Anomaly, the three machines in Cyborg's crew, was not affected by the virus. Now, this is where she basically gives us a lot of information. And what she says is that basically on this Earth, they had their own anomaly, meaning that Solai Stone on this Earth was trying to find a cure for his wife's cancer. But of course, it led to him basically making a bunch of clones. And one of those clones was Anomaly. The big difference was the clone on this universe, well, it turned on Solias and took Solias' OTAC project and turned it into a virus. Now remember, OTAC was an experiment Solias Stone was doing where he was trying to make a cell, a cybernetic blood cell that could technically change to any kind of cell to help fight against almost any kind of disease. Well, the anomaly on this Earth took that project and turn it into a virus, where of course it began the process of turning people into, well, mecha humans, half machine, half humans. Now, you do have Cyborg's mother tell Cyborg that there is a cure, but that cure was locked away by Solai Stone and he's now dead. He was killed. But of course, that cure is being protected by a certain group of people known as the Metal Men. And the Metal Men are the one who are protecting the cure that could basically get rid of this entire virus. Because with this virus, you have a war right now between two sides who are both mecha humans. But of course, their chance to save the world is to get that cure. Now, the second chapter opens up basically kind of weird because we actually do pick up with Cyborg and Variant right now fighting against an army of mecha humans. Now, of course, Beast Boy is there as well, but again, at the end of the last chapter we just did like a minute ago, they just got word about what's happening on this alternate Earth. To the second chapter opening up with basically Cyborg and also Variant and Beast Boy fighting against an army of mecha humans. Now, with that being said, of course, you have Cyborg once again losing in a battle against some kind of enemy where after he gets taken out, his vision begins to get blurry and he begins to kind of black out. And he wonders how he ended up at this point. Now, that is the moment where we actually do jump back in time, where we actually do pick up once again where the first chapter left off at, where of course you had Eleanor, the mother of Cyborg, actually explaining everything to her, well, not her son, but an alternate version of her son from a different universe on what happened on this Earth. Now, of course, we did get most of the information earlier in the first chapter, but with this chapter, we get a tad bit more information. And of course, you do have her playing a video of this universe Solai Stone left behind, where of course is him saying goodbye. Like, is him saying, listen, I made a cure for the virus. I locked it away to make sure the mecha humans don't find that cure, because if they do, they could technically get rid of it. And of course, the virus can continue to grow and wreck the Earth. And so, of course, I was able to lock that virus away. But Of course, he was killed off after telling Eleanor in this video about the cure. Now, right after he died, of course, the big question that everyone's wondering about, where is this universe version of Cyborg? Where is he at? And of course, you have Eleanor tell our Cyborg that her Cyborg had died. So basically, that is why we're at this point. Now, you do have Eleanor actually explain a tad bit more to Cyborg, and what she says is that basically, when it came to her and Elias, they were both scientists in this universe, except what she studied was almost completely different than what Elias studied. So her area of science was a tad bit different. But of course, with her area of science, she was actually able to kind of figure out a way to get an alternate universe Cyborg over here into this universe to basically help her out. Now, of course, after she tells our Cyborg that, you have our Cyborg agree to help her out, to get that cure. And the reason why she picked a Cyborg is because, of course, the facility that this universe Elias Stone had locked the cure in needs a Cyborg to basically break into. And so, of course, that's why she wanted alternate universe version of Cyborg. Now, there is a second reason, and that second reason will be told to us later on in this video, possibly. But of course, after Cyborg says yes, she does tell Cyborg that's great because we have basically arrived where we need you to go inside and get that cure for this virus. And so that leads us right back into the present day, where of course we actually do pick up with Cyborg right now, just after he blacked out, after being taken out. Now when Cyborg blacks out, he's right back in that white room again. And of course that white room is where basically he believes that he is dead, but of course we know that Cyborg is not dead because he was in this room before. But it seems like maybe this is his computer system trying to tell him something. Now that is the moment he is confronted by Blue once again. Now we know that this is not the Blue we met earlier in the series, that this is a completely different Blue. But of course, we don't know who this Blue is. Like, is this the alternate universe Blue, or is this something going on with Cyborg's system that's trying to tell him something, but of course it's trying to talk to him as Blue? Because remember, Blue was kind of the person who was teaching Cyborg life lessons. But of course, it's this version of Blue telling Cyborg that the world around him is not what it seems to be to him, meaning that open your eyes and look where you at. But of course, that is the moment you have this Blue begin to play music, and when he does, Cyborg blacks out once again, and when he wakes back up, he's inside the facility that this universe version of Elias Stone hid the cure to the virus in. And of course, he's confronted by Beast Boy of this universe and Xenophone, not Variant. Now, of course, you have to know when Cyborg realized that it's only him, Beast Boy, and also Xenophone, that Variant is missing, he's kind of like, where is Variant? And of course, you have Beast Boy and also Xenophone tell Cyborg that basically she was taken away. Now, with her being taken away, of course, you have Cyborg wanting to go save the woman he supposedly cares for, or love. Now, of course, we have to know that basically Cyborg does love Variant. And if you haven't really caught on so far, Cyborg also has feelings for Sarah, and that will happen maybe down the road. But either way, right now, his main crush, his main love is Variant. And so hearing that she was kidnapped is kind of like, well, he wants to go save her. But then you have Xenophone and Beast Boy remind him that your main goal is to get that cure for this virus. Now, with Cyborg being inside this facility, he was able to figure out that basically this universe version of Elias Stone had built a hidden room that is not on any map at all. And so that is why Elias, I'm gonna call the wrong name, Eleanor needed Cyborg here, because she knew that Cyborg has the ability to tap into computer systems to find out secrets of this facility. And of course, that secret was this hidden room. And of course, the cure is basically hidden inside that room. Now, when Cyborg realized after he gets inside the room that the cure is locked away in some kind of safe, when he goes to get to that safe, he basically is attacked by the Metal Men. Now, of course, the Metal Men been around in DC Comics for years. I mean, for years and years. But the Metal Men here are not the ones that most fans are actually used to. And so I don't want to sit down and actually dive into the Metal Men character because honestly, there's no point. But either way, you do have Cyborg fight against the Metal Men. Now, just like almost every single fight so far that we have seen in this series, Cyborg can't do nothing to these guys. Like, he is basically losing this battle against these guys, and it's kind of sad to see that for the character of Cyborg. But either way, you actually do have Cyborg be saved by Xenophone, because Xenophone, remember, is a very techie person. And so he was able to hack into Celia's Stone computer system as a way to shut down the Metal Men from attacking Cyborg. And so with that, it does seem like basically now our heroes should be able to get the cure to stop this virus from taking over the Earth completely. But of course, this is only part 2 of 7, meaning that it won't be that easy for our characters, because right when you have Xenophone open up the safe and in the box that was supposedly containing the cure for the virus, well, that is the moment you have this random needle come out of the box and actually inject something into Xenophone. And with this injection, well, that is the same moment we kind of find out that basically this universe version of Cyborg is actually alive. And on top of that, he's actually a bad guy. So we're about to see Cyborg versus Cyborg. But here's the thing. Now you have Xenophone affected with the virus that basically turned people into the half human, half robot people. Now, getting into the 3rd chapter, we actually do pick up with Eleanor right now with her Star Labs helicarrier being under attack by the mecha humans. Now, this is kind of huge because right now, when it came to Star Labs at this point, they were in the sky for a good reason. One, they were not on the ground so that they would not be easily under attack. And 2, they were basically hidden from the world. So when they get under attack, they're kind of like, wait a second, how they find us? How in the world are we now under attack by their forces? Because we were basically hidden. And so it kind of seems like right now, Cyborg and his crew are just falling apart left and right, because now he knows there is an evil Cyborg, but on top of that, now the Star Labs helicarrier is gone, and on top of that, his dear friend Xenophone has been affected with the virus as well. Now, right after the attack, you basically have our Cyborg call up Eleanor to tell her that basically now he knows that her son, his version of himself of this universe, is alive. Because remember, she told our Cyborg that her version of Cyborg is dead. But of course, now he knows that her version is alive and well. So basically, she lied to our Cyborg. And the reason why she lies because she said she felt like he would not help her if he had found out that this universe version of Cyborg is basically evil. But now you have Cyborg telling her, listen, he has the cure now. So now I have to go to the White House to get the cure from him, because now he wants a one-on-one battle. Now, something else to mention is that with Star Labs helicarrier being attacked and being destroyed, Anomaly from our universe got away. But of course, he was captured for a special reason. Now, of course, when our Cyborg actually arrives at the White House, this basically begins the process of everything that we have covered so far coming back around. And the reason why I say that is because when our Cyborg arrives at the White House, he meets the evil Cyborg. And of course, the evil Cyborg is red. Now, remember, in our last video or two, Cyborg ran into an evil Cyborg. but it was only for a brief moment when Cyborg was technically stuck in the Ubuntu traveling system. And apparently while he was traveling in the Ubuntu system, he ran into this evil cyborg, and he did cut off the arm of this evil cyborg. Now, when he did that, it was Cyborg just thinking that his computer system was just going crazy, and he was just fighting a crazy version of himself that wasn't even real. But to come find out, it was real. Now, the reason why this cyborg here, who's in red, is basically evil, because this is a version of Cyborg who has not overcome the difficulty of becoming Cyborg. And what I mean is that when it came to our Cyborg, he was just a regular football player. But when he turned into Cyborg, thanks to his father plus the mother box, it was a hard process for our cyborg to get over, because it's a huge thing. One day you're a human, the next day you're half man, half machine. And so it was hard for our cyborg to get over it, but he did. But for this cyborg in this universe, he never did. He was basically stuck in that mindset of his father was cruel, his father was evil. This is a cyborg who never got over the idea of becoming cyborg. Now, our cyborg realized that there is a war going on this planet. And I said that earlier. There is a war right now, but that war is not humans versus mecha humans. It's mega humans versus mecha humans. And one of the sides belongs to Cyborg, the evil cyborg, meaning that evil cyborg is basically fighting against someone else. And we have no idea who it is, but you have this evil cyborg say the only reason why he's helping out the machines because he feels like it's the right step. Forget humans. Humans are the reason why machines are here right now. It's the human's fault, and basically evil cyborg has embraced his machine side. Now, like the evil cyborg said, he's basically in a war right now against somebody else. Well, we come to find out who that other side is. That other side is basically an anomaly of this universe. And it makes sense because it was the anomaly of this universe that basically led the world turning into a bunch of mecha humans. It was that anomaly. And so it makes sense that you would have a war between evil cyborg and that anomaly. And remember, our main DC universe anomaly got captured and he was taken away by mecha humans. And of course, he was brought to this universe version of himself. But getting back over to the battle between Cyborg and evil Cyborg, this is kind of interesting because now you're asking the idea, how can Cyborg defeat himself? Because this is a character who's basically like our Cyborg. He has almost every single tech and skills and moves that our Cyborg should possibly have. But of course, this evil Cyborg is a tad bit more advanced. On top of that, our Cyborg, he may have been cured from all the different viruses, but again, this evil Cyborg is a tad bit more advanced. But then this actually leads into one of the biggest moments of the book, because that is the moment you have Cyborg realize that he's actually able to stop evil Cyborg, that he's actually able to control this evil Cyborg just like that. And the question is now how? Because our Cyborg has no idea how he's actually able to do this. He's kind of like, yeah, I got you. You're stuck here. But the question is though, how that happened, because literally a brief moment ago, our Cyborg couldn't do nothing. And now he's able to control evil Cyborg and do all kinds of different things. But of course, everybody is confused on how he's doing. Now, this is where we basically figure out what in the world is going on with this fake world. And let me tell you, this is kind of interesting and very huge, but I feel like they should have done more with this storyline. And what I mean is that basically you have Cyborg be confronted by Blue again. Now remember, this Blue is a blind man who can play the saxophone. Now by this point, you can tell this is not our real Blue. that the real Blue is actually, you know, in the real DC universe. This is some kind of like computer program in Cyborg that is trying to make Cyborg aware, what is happening around him right now. That this is not your basic parallel world. That basically this is a digital parallel world. That this whole world that Cyborg, Variant, and Xenophone are in, well, this is just a digital world. Because there's a point where technology, humans, and everything else you could use have come together under a singularity to build the Digiverse. You have the DC Multiverse, but now you have the Digiverse. Basically, different kinds of computer systems that have gotten so advanced, but they're all connected to each other. And so in their mind, it's kind of like they're in a multiverse, but really they're just the Digiverse. Now, here's the thing though. The real reason why Cyborg and his crew was teleported into the Digiverse is because the virus in this universe, the one that Celia Stone had made, if that spreads across other planets in the Digiverse, it can basically wipe out the Digiverse. Now, here's the thing. The people in these different universes in the Digiverse have no idea that they're basically just digital information. They have no idea that they're technically not real at all. And that right there is huge. But of course, it's now Cyborg realizing what he has to do. He, one, has to get his crew out of there before they're basically stuck in the Digiverse. But on top of that, he has to get rid of the virus to save the Digiverse. Now, of course, to kind of leave on a cliffhanger, we basically do pick up a Cyborg right now, waking back up and being confronted by Beast Boy. But of course, by this point, all of evil Cyborg and his forces were taken out. But you have Cyborg tell Beast Boy that basically right now they have to find the cure, because that cure is going to save millions of digital lives. But on top of that, we have to jump over to Anomaly and Anomaly to see that they have Variant. Because remember, Beast Boy said that she was captured. Now, we didn't know she was captured by evil Cyborg or Anomaly. But now we know that basically evil Anomalies have Variant once again. And they plan to use her for their own personal evil needs. But this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. Also, if you have any suggestions on books I should read, well, please let me know in the comments below, because you never know, your suggestion could be a future video down the road. But guys, I'll see y'all next time. Later.